Welcome back. Muhammad.
Mr.
Hiya, Yasmin. Hiya. Yasmin. And Yasmin Said. Yusuf Awad. Moghdadi. Hayy. Yusuf Awad. Moghdadi. Hayy. Okay. تدرس أسامة. تدرس أسامة. So, welcome back, guys. We have حسن رحيم, محمد توكل, أسامة درويش, تدرس عيسى, ياسمين السقا, ياسين سعيد, يوسف عوض, بغدادي, and Haya. Haya, what's wrong with your mic? All the time you don't have a mic. What's wrong, lady? Haya, can you hear me? In the first session, guys, I had 5 active people who shared with reading the short story. Read Tadrus, Ruhaym, Boghdadi, Jana, Garayhi, and Halashli. I'd like to thank them because there are marks for participation. If you don't participate in the session, there are 10 marks for participation. And I think you need the marks. You need to be more active, guys, and don't be absent, please. If you attend the session, let me listen your voice. Okay? Haya, I can't hear anything from you. If you are here, raise your hand and try to solve your mic problem. Haya, please. Try to solve your mic problem. Ryan. Okay. Welcome back, Lion.
Hi, Mr.
Okay. Share the screen again. So in the first session, we started short stories, writing short stories. We talked about the pre-writing stage and Mariam Naqib. Okay, and now we're doing the let's say the drafting stage. We'll have the drafting stage here. Or before the drafting stage, we still have gathering details. As guys, you want to write a short story. But these are some tips that help you write your short story. Again, a short story is a short or a brief narrative or fictional narrative. According to Edgar Allan Poe, it could be read in one setting. A short story could be read in 5 minutes, as we did in the crossing the creek, or the short story you have just read, or in an hour or 2 hours, no more, in one setting, in one reading setting. As a last step before drafting, take some time to expand your own knowledge of the story you will tell. Gather details on those key elements of narration. Identify the conflict. You know, again, like any play, like any novel, in a short story, there is a conflict that needs to be resolved. Clarify the problem your story will develop. Make notes. Again, if we talk about the people on the beach, the family on the beach, for example, they lose, one of their kids gets lost on the beach, you know, it's crowded most of the time on beaches. And so this is the problem, for example, trying to find their lost son or daughter. And then the problem is resolved or solved towards the end of the story. Make notes about the ways the problem will reveal itself and intensify. How will the parents recognize that one of their kids is missing? For example, the ways different characters will react, how the mother will react, how the father will react, how the other people around them will react, and so on, to the problem, and the results of the resolution, how the problem was resolved or solved. Picture your setting. Again, the setting is merely the place and the time. Decide on the specific time and place of your story. Then, list details that identify this exact location. If you want to talk about the Port Said beach, for example, or the Port Fuad beach, you could describe the place as a crowded place, as a small place, as a big place, as an open place, as a closed place. Yani, look for the adjectives that would help you develop your plot. Using details of the setting in your narrative will enrich your writing. For example, showing your narrator sitting in rush hour traffic will convey the setting and possibly raise the conflict level. If you're talking about someone who is stuck in traffic, this will show the reader how the situation is, or understand better the situation, or better understand the situation. Interview your character. To gather details about the people in your story, devise a questionnaire. Create questions about their personalities, experiences, and the conflict that they face. Then answer the questions from each character's perspective. You're going to talk about a thief in your story. So prepare some questions to ask the thief, the fictional character in your story, and then answer the questions from the point of view of the thief. Okay? So a thief that plans to steal a bank, for example, or rob a bank. Ask him, why do you need the money? And answer in behalf of him. I need the money to help my mom have her surgeon, for example, or any reason, okay? Gathering details through character interviews. This is a sample of the questionnaire you would ask your characters. Remember, you are the one who will answer all the questions from the point of view of the character. How do you like to spend your free time? We have an answer. How would you describe yourself? How would you describe the weeks following your accident, and so on? This is just an example for the questions you would ask your character. Step 2, after the pre-writing step or stage, we have drafting. And by drafting, this is the first trial of writing, which can have some grammatical mistakes, punctuation mistakes, any type of mistakes. It's not important to write it accurately. This is the first draft. Shaping your writing, yani putting your ideas on paper. Okay, this is drafting. As you prepare to write, gather all the pre-writing you have done, review your ideas, and sketch out a plan for telling your story. Review the elements of plot. Again, the plot is the order in which you write story. The plot or sequence of events, or the order of events in your narrative, will probably revolve around a conflict. There is a problem. Naguda joined us, okay. There is a problem, there is a conflict. Begin with an exposition that establishes the conflict and introduces the setting and characters. In the short story we read in the first session, Tom, the hunter, alone on one of the banks of the river or the creek with his horse. He wants to cross the river, but the horse is confused. And Tom falls down on the rocks and gets injured badly, and he's bleeding badly, okay? He's about to die. This is, the writer exposes the situation or the problem, okay? The man is dying, and he wants to join his friends to take him to hospital. In the next part of your draft, called the rising action, so you expose the idea, then the rising action. Build the conflict until it reaches its high point, the story's climax. Next, describe the resolution of the conflict where the problem is solved. In the following action of your story, tie up any loose ends of the plot. Build toward a climax. You know, we have the exposition or exposing the problem, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, then the resolution, the stuff you know from previous grades. Use a plot diagram like the one below to help you plan your plot, to keep the story moving. Introduce the problem as soon as you can, then add events and details that intensify the problem. Once you know how the climax of your story will play out, add details and events to the rising action to identify the conflict. Here the diagram, the famous diagram, you remember better than me. So using a plot diagram to build momentum in a plot, continuity in a plot, to sketch out the major stages of his story. Ben, again, if you remember who's Ben, a student like you in high school in California, Ben created a plot diagram by adding several events to the rising action. Here we have the rising action, here the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. He showed his plans for making his character's conflict stronger. Here we have some, in the exposition, he introduces narrator and describes his personality. This is the exposition. Then we have the conflict here. Accident gives him new power. Then the rising action, he enjoyed the novelty, the situation, after having this new power. And then he sees the thoughts of everyone all around him, and he begins to hate it. Then the climax, Paul's best friend, she likes him. And then second accident, there is a second accident, and the resolution, live life with new understanding. Okay, this is the short story Ben is going to write. Providing elaboration. Elaboration, you know that it means more ideas. When you elaborate on a topic, you discuss it more, right? Once you have developed the frame of your story, fill in the details to create a complete picture for your readers. Remember that you are constructing your story to achieve a specific effect. Choose only information that suits your purpose. Knowing what to tell and what to leave out is an important skill of good storytelling. Show, don't tell. Show, don't tell. To bring a scene to life for readers without dictating what they should think about every character and action, challenge yourself to show more and tell less. Whenever possible, use action to move the story along. Use repetition to stress an emotion, and include dialogue to illustrate the characters' personalities. Look at these examples. Telling, it was a dark and stormy night. You tell the reader that it was a dark and stormy night. Showing, instead of telling, you say it like this. Andy squinted in the darkness. I showed that it is dark. You didn't say it was dark. Andy squinted in the darkness, pulled his coat closer around him, which means it was cold, and walked headlong into the rain. It was stormy. You showed that it was stormy. You didn't say that it was dark like this. So to show is better than to tell. Another example for repetition. She was nervous as she waited. She was nervous as she waited. Elisa checked her watch. Here she checked her watch, but only 5 minutes had passed. She tapped her pen, filed the nail, and looked at her wrist again. Looked at her wrist is another way to express checking your watch, because you wear your watch on your wrist. Now he was 7 minutes late. So this is repetition. Repetition. Okay? And here we have a dialogue. They started to bicker. They started to bicker or talk or argue. Don't you tell that they started to talk or discuss or argue loudly. Don't talk like that to me. Talk like that to you. I've had about enough. Okay, so it takes the shape of a dialogue instead of saying they started to argue or bicker. These techniques help you improve your writing. Revising. Once you have written your first draft, take the time to improve the story, starting with the big picture and moving in to focus on the smaller details will help you build up your short story. Revising your overall structure, get the reader involved early. You should expose the conflict at an early time, as we said. The first paragraphs of your story should set the mood of your writing, pulling your readers in from the start. You know, you want the reader to complete your story, complete reading your story. Like YouTubers, guys, if you are a YouTuber, you know that they try to make you watch the whole video. Okay, because once you watch the first minute, or it's not a view, it's not counted a view, and he loses your view this way. You know, YouTubers need to get as many views as and likes and shares as they can. Okay, so he tries to grab your attention from the very beginning, and he wants you to keep watching the video. The same here. You need your reader to finish your story, to read it to the end. So you should grab their attention from the very beginning. Review the exposition of your draft and consider making the writing more compelling, more interesting by offering vivid, clear details that make the reader feel part of the scene. Snapshots may help you do this. Revision strategy. Revision strategy. Using snapshots. Think of each episode in your story as a photograph or a snapshot of a moment in time. Review your exposition or the beginning of your story to identify places where the view could be made clearer. Then add details to make the picture more vivid, more clear, or clearer. Here is an example. This is Ben, our friend from a California school, Santa Monica High School, Santa Monica, California. And this is his snapshots. Or these are his snapshots. Using snapshots to grab the reader's attention. When Ben looked at his exposition, he asked questions to bring out more description in his writing. The answers helped him provide a clearer snapshot of the scene. His questions are here. What is the speaker doing? Where is he? What does the place look like? And so on. I wish I could be normal again. I really do. After the first accident, begin as I stare at the full glass of root beer in front of me. I say to my friend, but he deleted this part and added this part instead. But I guess that's impossible since I discovered my power in the shadows of the dimly lit booth. My listener nods his head silently. This is how he changes or adds or deletes some of the parts he doesn't like. Okay? Revising your paragraphs. Revising your paragraphs, create stronger characterization. After writing the draft, revising it, and creating a stronger characterization. While characterization can be directly revealed by the narrator of a story, a character's own words and actions reveal a voice and a personality. Look for places where you can develop characters through dialogue and action. Revision strategy. Adding dialogue to reveal your characters. If you have two characters and they are having a dialogue, through the words of each one of them, we can understand their personalities. Reread your paragraphs one by one. Find places where you can add dialogue to reveal more about your characters. These might be events that you simply describe, or emotions and attitudes that you explain. In the instances you have found, let the characters speak for themselves. The reader understands from your description or the dialogue of your characters the personalities of each one of them. While a writer may have described the end of an interview with a few brief sentences of narration, notice how the example below shows the character Jen, Jen to be professional and calm despite an awkward interview situation. Event narrated with dialogue. So Jen began, wondering how to leave gracefully. I guess you'll call me when you know who you've chosen, she says to the interviewer. Yes, that's right. The manager had already turned her attention to other things. Well, again, Jen kept friendly optimism well, she said, well, again, Jen kept friendly optimism in her voice. I enjoyed your meeting and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Silence. Thanks so much for your time. I'll find my way out. She gathered her things, smiled weakly, and left. Use structure to make so again. These words show that the lady is she is professional and calm. Okay, she is professional and self-confident and calm. Use structure to make dialogue realistic. To get the feel of the natural way that people talk, listen to a few conversations. Note the rhythms of pacing and pacing of conversations and the way the subject affects the way people converse, the way people talk. Then, to achieve that natural effect in your writing and pauses, use sentence fragments or let your characters interrupt each other to look natural. Choose the right words. Just as you use your own diction, your own words as you speak, let your characters use the language that is right for them. Yani if you are writing, one of your characters is a thief, for example, use the language thieves use. If your if your one of the characters is a doctor, use the jargon or the language doctors use. For example, use slang if the character is talking with friends. Informal language, but use more formal language if the character is talking to someone unfamiliar, someone he or she doesn't know. Right. Revising your sentences. Vary. This might be revising your sentences. I finish this page, maybe 2 pages, and finish the session. Okay, sorry. Vary sentence beginnings. Don't fall into the habit of beginning several sentences the same way. Some people like to repeat themselves all the time. To revive this dull pattern in your writing, look at your sentence beginnings and introduce variety where you can. Sometimes people say, and after that, such and such happened. And after that, such and such happened. After that, they keep saying after that, after that, after that. They repeat themselves. This is boring for the reader. Okay. Revision strategy. Listen or listing sentence starters. Make a list of the first words in each sentence of your draft. Challenge yourself to break any pattern that presents itself. If there is any repetition, try to change it. Here we have an example using a word list to vary sentence beginnings. When people looked at the first words in his draft, when Ben, he noticed that he started several sentences with I. He made corrections to vary his writing style. Here we have 3 I's, I think. I believed acting one way and thinking another was just an adult thing until I got into middle school. But he replaced this part by, because of those experiences, I believe that he changed at the beginning. And here, instead of saying people spoke, he said their people spoke, or instead of people, he said their spoke nicely to and complete. Okay. Then the next sentence begins with it, and then he will look for a suitable way to change it. Revising your word choice. Use specific verbs. We talked about sentences or sentence beginnings. Use specific verbs. Action verbs can provide description without adding too many modifiers. The action verbs are better than linking verbs here, or condition verbs. Be sure you have chosen the most efficient verbs. Revision strategy. Circling action verbs. Choose one paragraph and circle the action verbs it contains. List other verbs that might fit the sentence. Evaluate the meaning each one conveys, and then choose the best verb. Example: a batter is a player in baseball, like the person who hits the ball, because the bat, B-A-T, is the stick they use to hit the ball in some of the sports, like tennis table tennis, and baseball and some other sports. The batter hit the ball into right field. Here the batter looped the ball into right field. So the word loop is better than the word hit here. Grammar in your writing. Grammar in your writing. This is the last point. Action versus linking verbs. Action verbs tell what action someone or something is performing. Action verbs can show both physical and mental action. Physical action, like the bear squats the branches away. Squats, action. Mental action, I agree with you. Linking verbs help one word in a sentence to name or describe the condition of another word in a sentence, like the lion is the king. So lion and king. Linking in order to describe. The argument was exhausting, and so on. Yasmin Saeed. Are you still alive, Yasmin? Yasmin. Okay. Find it in your reading. Reread Crossing Spider Creek, a short story we read in the first session by Dan O'Brien. Identify 5 action verbs and 5 linking verbs. Skip this part. Finding it in your writing. Look through your story draft and find 5 action verbs and 5 linking verbs you have used. Challenge yourself to revise sentences that would be improved by a more precise action verb. Try to replace the linking verbs with action verbs. Okay. Here, reviewing, group feedback. Before you make final changes to your draft, get together with a small group of classmates. He advises you to give your story, short story, to a friend, a classmate, as writers share your work and give each other suggestions. You all are writers now, so you give each other suggestions for making your short stories better. Listen and participate in the review each story. You may hear an idea that you can apply to your work. Read your story aloud to the group twice. So I'll stop here and so we stopped at page 115. There is no homework for today, guys. We'll complete this part on Sunday, inshallah. And remember, you are going to write a short story on Tuesday, inshallah. Okay? Thank you very much and see you Sunday. Assalamu alaikum. Doesn't want to end. Okay, here.